Before I met the gospel, I lived a life of a Christian, bound by religious, centered on our culture and our tradition. I always chose our culture over this gospel. I used to work very hard for the sake of my children. When I met the gospel, that day, that was God's time schedule for my life. That's God's plan. It's not a coincidence. When God saw this helpless woman, He said, "You come to me. I saw you are so weary and burdened. I can give you rest." He gave me the life of Jesus Christ through this gospel that AP Ane and AP Tonga relayed to me on that day. After I meeting the gospel, my life changed. I always had peace in my heart. For my long life covenants, I always want to be standing in the line of an evangelist who is destined for world evangelization. I have to evangelize because that's my calling inside the gospel. So I have to fulfill this calling.
I was struggling with my husband. He was under drugs. He's still. That's why I had to leave the home. Financially, physically, mentally, I was really just down. But all the churches I went to, nothing changed in my life and even my kids' life. Now I can see my kids is sharing the gospel, and that's make me more happy, very happy. So when she shared the gospel rose with us, I just cried a lot in the middle of the street, loud. Just like it's mean to me, it's sign from God to say, yes, I'm with you. You are mine. God already make me feel like I'm His daughter and a disciple, to be witness for Him, for the changes it happened in my life. That's my plan for the future, to be witness for Jesus, to tell everybody about Jesus the Christ. The plan for my kids is to be a remnant. Know who is Jesus, not just to be Christian. It's like more. It's mean more to me to be a remnant more than being Christian.
I didn't really know the gospel before. As I grew up in a Christian family, but I didn't really know the gospel, know the mystery of Christ and the blood covenant. But I'm really excited to know the gospel, like coming here, especially like in Immanuel Church, as I stay to learn about the gospel, and now I know what is the meaning of the gospel. When I hear the gospel, I really like shocked, and actually like I guilty as well, because my life is not in the gospel. My life is like really messed up. But now I know that gospel, like Christ already finished everything on the cross, like John 19 verse 30. So like now I really thankful that I know the gospel and I have assurance as a child of God. My plan, I think of that I want to build a church like in Solomon, because as a missionary, like I representing Solomon Island. Like now at the moment I just like follow God's plan and hold on to the covenant. And I think it takes long time like to be mature in the gospel and to be prepared to do the missionary work.
I lived a very chaotic life. I had a lot of problems, anxieties that I kept inside of myself. I grew up away from my parents, so I always had this like scar, I would say, inside of me. Why do I have to, not have my family when everyone else does? And why do I have to be apart from them? Why am I living this kind of life? When I first heard the gospel, I was like, wow, they're talking about something that I never heard before, and it's so factual because I've experienced this a lot in my life. I used to have a lot of spiritual experiences. I used to see things, hear things, and I thought it was normal, but I would have daily afflictions. So when I heard about the forces of darkness and how Satan's working, that really shocked me. It wasn't until I had surgery, it was in 2019 when I was in the hospital. I had remembered all the messages that Pastor Peter and Assistant Pastor Sue had given to me, but at that time it really started coming out, and that's when I reached out. The more and more I understand the gospel, I feel like God's preparing me in that kind of role, like a leadership role. Yeah, I have boldness to step forward in that. When I look at other people, I feel quite sorry for them, as in, wow, I have this tremendous peace, I have this assurance. My life is so easy. I have everything, even if I make a mistake, God's gonna look after me. But people who are outside of the covenant, people who don't have Christ, they don't have that. So their life is continuous suffering and affliction non-stop. And I know because I used to live like that. So I feel that if I have this answer, why shouldn't I give it to other people? So in the future, I definitely see myself continuously being inside of the evangelism field. In my professional field, I am praying at the moment whether to become a barrister. So barrister is a specialized lawyer. I could witness to even higher up people in my field. There's a million other lawyers that exist. There's a million other families that exist. What's different about me? I want to always hold to that I'm an evangelist first and everything else secondary.
All up, I spent about 45 years in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but I realise the shortcomings of their faith. Coming to Immanuel Church, I came to know the gospel, and it's the best thing I have. It suddenly hit me that God does love me, and that was a real revelation to me. There are a few things which I cling to. For example, Christ's words on the cross, "It is finished," and it's finished for me too. I can dump the guilt. If you're focused on yourself, it's hard work, evangelism. But if you focus on Christ, evangelism, it's good. It's a lot better. And so outwardly, that's perhaps the biggest change in me, my attitude to people, because I didn't want to be rejected. So you don't do anything that way. You don't get rejected. I'm enjoying life now more than I've ever enjoyed life before. I would like to go on doing that. I want to grow in knowledge of the gospel and to continue this journey. But I'd like to keep doing evangelism because it's it is a blessing. And in Australia, where we've got so many different nationalities that have come from overseas, there's endless scope when it comes to 237. But I'm just very thankful for where I'm at and the grace that God has shown.